Are you ready to face your fears? Because today's video is all about the scary animal attacks caught on camera. From sharks attacking unsuspecting swimmers to crocodiles lurking in the shadows waiting to strike, we've got some spine-chilling footage that will make you think twice before going on your next nature hike. So grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and get ready to be terrified as we take a deep dive into the world of the scariest animal attacks ever. Let's get started, if you dare. If you think being inside a car protects you from lions, this clip will make you think again. In the beginning, it all starts off with a male lion curiously investigating a car full of terrified people. Kevin Richardson, the well-known lion whisperer, then comes to the rescue as he attempts to call the male lion away from the car. Despite his numerous efforts to call the predator away, it does not listen, and instead becomes more curious, leading to this. After this, he is left with no choice but to tell the driver to drive away as the lion seems unable to lose interest. As the car drives away, more lions get intrigued and start to chase it, which makes the situation even more dangerous. Fortunately, the predators decide to leave the car alone after it drives further away. If you ever planned on going cage diving, this clip will make you think again. This intense encounter started with two women recording their shark cage diving trip in Mossel Bay, South Africa. During the dive, a great white can be seen biting their cage aggressively, which scares them tremendously, as only the bars separate them from its jaws. Despite the woman's terror, the cage operator continues to bait and entice the predator, waving a chunk of fish meat near the cage. Fortunately, the cage protected the women throughout the entire encounter. A woman in Brunswick's mobile home park got herself into a nightmare of a situation in March of 2021. It was a Friday night and Kimberly Bashad was sitting on a porch having a smoke. She was just there relaxing when suddenly there came the noise of something scurrying underneath her deck. Kimberly happened to have a baseball bat sitting beside her chair. It was there in case of a wild animal or a wild human ran up to her steps and tried to attack her. Scared for her safety, Kimberly gripped the bat in both hands and crept to the railing. She peered over, hoping it wasn't a big cat or some other monster stalking her from beneath. And that was when a fox darted up the stairs and sank its teeth into her leg. Kimberly acted on instinct. She swung the bat down, hitting the fox hard. At that point, absolute chaos erupted. Kimberly screamed, which prompted the neighbors to come running over. One of her sons called 911 because he didn't know what was happening, and everyone was yelling. All the while, the poor fox was getting beaten by a baseball bat. When everything had finally settled down, the fox was dead. Foxes are almost always shy of humans and would typically avoid attacking whenever possible. The only reason a fox ever gets aggressive towards a person, especially when unprompted, is that they're rabid, affected with rabies. Luckily, even though the fox bit Kimberly on the leg, it didn't break her skin. She didn't have to get a rabies shot, and the animal didn't need to be tested. Still, it was almost certainly infected for just how vicious it was acting, as horrible as it was that Kimberly killed the animal. If she hadn't done it, someone else would have. The fox would have just attacked again and again as the rabies got worse and worse. This horrifying animal encounter begins with Victoria Vodar, a vlogger recapping her recent experience during a trip to Africa. After this, she talks about one encounter with an aggressive giant black rhino which almost ended her life. The terrifying close call begins with Victoria and a tour guide finding two black rhinos grazing in the grass. At first, everything seems to be going well as they get pictures and close-ups, but then things quickly go south after one rhino does this. In the panic, she drops her camera and the giant rhino manages to knock the firearm out of the tour guide's hands, making things worse. Fortunately, after the first charge, the animal decides to run away, leaving no one harmed. Recorded in Russia, this animal encounter shows a tourist trying to get closer to a young brown bear they had just encountered, thinking that it wasn't that dangerous. The tourist stupidly turns his back, which gives the bear the opportunity to do this. Thankfully, the predators did not reach him in time, and they drive away quickly. National parks are popular destinations for tourists, but they are also home to some of the most dangerous predators. In the beginning of the clip, A large grizzly bear can be seen walking in circles in the road as multiple park rangers attempt to drive it away. The grizzly eventually makes its way back into the bushes, yet it does not walk away completely and instead stays near the road. Remaining a threat, the park rangers fire warning shots at the animal, hoping that the sound will scare it further into the trees. Failing to scare the predator by using loud sounds, the park rangers ultimately decide to take drastic measures, leading to this happening. The bear gets hit by hazing shots, which leads it to run further into the trees, making the rangers' method successful. Thankfully, they are able to drive the bear away, leaving no one harmed. At the start of this fear-inducing shark encounter, a fisherman can be seen recording a tiger shark swimming around him moments. At the start of this fear-inducing shark encounter, a fisherman can be seen recording a tiger shark swimming around him. Moments later, the situation becomes much worse after the predator decides to approach him, which leads to these terrifying events. Despite already being poked by the fisherman's spear, the shark still circles around him, even approaching him again despite the first warning. After being poked again, the predator seems to have learned its lesson, yet much to the man's surprise, it approaches him again. Unfortunately, the clip cuts early, and what happens next remains unknown. This frightening clip starts off with a man recording a huge elephant investigating a group of tourists trying to pass by on the dirt road. The group try their best to sit still and remain calm to avoid angering or surprising the large animal walking around them. The encounter remains controlled so far, but the tourists remain calm in order to avoid escalating the situation further. Hopefully what happens next is unknown, since the clip ends prematurely. This terrifying video begins with popular YouTuber YBS Youngbloods recording his paddleboarding experience. Later on, though, he comes across a very unexpected visitor. Moments later, the situation escalates as the camera shows the shark engaging in its predatory behavior towards a nearby turtle. After failing to catch its prey, a hungry predator becomes aggressive, leading it to switch its attention towards the man filming it. Luckily, the shark does not harm him, enabling him to get back to shore safely. Filmed in Oregon, this nerve-wracking video starts with a man face-to-face with a curious and cautious mountain lion. At first, both the predator and the man remain as still as possible in order to avoid escalating the situation further. After a while, though, the animal starts to move as the man talks about whether to shoot the predator or not. Fortunately for both of them, the mountain lion decides to back away slowly. Captured in Alaska, this short clip begins with a tourist recording a huge grizzly bear approaching them during one of their expeditions. Moments later, the bear gets close enough for the group to see its large body and sharp claws, which scares them even more. Despite the already terrifying situation that the group is in, it suddenly becomes more frightening after the predator does this. Thankfully, the bear does not come closer to the group and leaves after a while. In North Carolina, a man almost died after he was bitten by a Gaboon viper in early 2022. The Gaboon viper is one of the most venomous snakes in the entire world. The single bite was so severe that the man lost several of his fingers and had to be treated with 44 bottles of antivenom over a course of 7 days. To give you some idea of how much antivenom that is, that's roughly double what's used for a normal snake bite. The toxic serpent is native to sub-Saharan Africa and boasts the highest venom yield of any venomous snake. It has fangs 2 inches long, and its bite is almost always fatal if not treated instantly. But maybe the bigger question here is how a man from South Carolina was nearly killed by an African snake. According to Luke reports, he had been caring for it, meaning it was his pet. We have no idea where he got it from, but after the bite, he had to spend several months healing in the hospital. That's just how horrible the venom from the Gaboon viper is. And even with all those anti-venom treatments, doctors still weren't sure he would survive. Hopefully this man has learned his lesson about caring for venomous animals. Maybe next time, he'll get a puppy instead. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.